Hello, and welcome back to the lore of Punishing Grey Raven. Today we'll be getting into the 4th chapter of the main story, Forgotten Sand. Previously in Chapter 3, we left off with Grey Raven, who are tracking the Ascendants to an abandoned estate building on the outskirts of City 015. We fight our way through the mansion, meeting many new characters in Kamui, Luna, and the main enemy of the chapter, Roland. Throughout their interactions, we see Lucia is suffering from extreme gaps in her memory that she just now seems to notice. We arrive at the center of the estate and fight Roland, whose goal was to infect Kamui with the Punishing Virus. Now we race against the collapsing building to save Kamui and prevent ourselves from being buried alive. We manage to break through the debris and find an unconscious Kamui lying on the ground. Roland has long since disappeared, and despite Kamui's corruption levels rising earlier, he is currently showing no outward signs of infection. We decide to leave it be, since if his status changes, Liv is more than capable of sensing it early on. We move to escape the estate, but the layout has changed significantly due to all the collapsed sections and the commotion bringing out even more corrupted. While looking for a way out, Kamui remembers that he had placed mapping terminals in the mansion, and collecting them should provide us information Liv can use to plan our escape route. Kamui goes to collect his terminals, and Lucia asks if he's fit enough to exert all of this effort after fighting Roland. This comes as another inconsistency in Kamui's mind, as he mentions Lucia has never been this concerned for others before. We fight our way to the mapping terminals and retrieve the data, then fall back to a safer location so Liv can focus on analyzing a path for escape rather than using her energy for fighting. Liv finishes calculating an escape route with all paths having a 0% chance of success. We have her recalculate, this time lowering the safety requirements, only for the result not to change, and Liv says the result won't be any different unless she gets more than topographical data. We look for any other solutions that might help us in the situation, and Kamui looks through his remaining equipment, producing several EMP grenades. Everyone questions their usability, as the corrupted, as well as the gates locking us in, are EMP shielded. But Kamui has something completely different in mind. He puts them in several spots near the hall and says he is trying to disable something in the next room. He sets off the grenades and we hear mechanical sounds coming from next door. This is when Kamui says he saw a large mech on Liv's scan and assumed it must be held using EM restraints. Using the grenades, he destroyed the restraints and released the mech that soon began attacking the corrupted. The group slips through a crack in the wall and follows behind the mech as it takes out the enemies in our path. The mech continues tearing through the estate, eliminating all the corrupted and giving us a clear path, but Lucia stops us, saying the mech wasn't infected despite being crudely made and might have some special technology that allows it to resist the virus. But we know it will succumb eventually and become a hindrance to future operations. Everyone agrees, so we destroy the mech, preventing it from interfering with Babylonia in the future, as well as taking its memory files for future analysis. We escape the manor and head to a nearby extraction point, discovering the transport craft has already been destroyed by Roland. We are attacked by some corrupted as we wander through the sand, and are soon contacted by Celica, who is tracking our location to send another transport. We keep moving as to not get pinned down by corrupted, and Liv informs us of a military outpost.
Hold up, wait a minute. Huh?
Of a military outpost 10 kilometers away when we are attacked by a massive snake-like corrupted called Visago. We manage to fight it off and Liv gives us her analysis, emphasizing that it has poor visual capabilities, but its vibration and scent detection are both exceptional. We arrive at a set of desert ruins to rest and avoid the impending sandstorm when we are ambushed by an unknown enemy using Babylonia EM camo to sneak up on us. During the fight, Liv performs a scan and learns the enemy is labeled a Babylonia deserter marked for execution. We repel the attack and the enemy backs off, having recognized Lucia. Lucia asks who he is and why he knows her when Kamui jumps in and says they all used to train in the same group together. Yet another detail that Lucia has no memory of. The attacking construct, named Watanabe, says they are lucky to be alive and that his companions wouldn't have spared us after what Babylonia did to them. At this point, we learn the Forsaken are made up of soldiers that Babylonia had abandoned on Earth during the end of the Great Evacuation. Watanabe takes an interest in Liv's support capabilities, and when Lucia interjects, Watanabe acknowledges a debt he has to Lucia and gives Shikikan a box of mint as a sign of peace. Before we all go our separate ways, Lucia asks Watanabe if there are any nearby locations suitable for resupply, and Watanabe agrees to take us to a Forsaken survey point. Lucia is skeptical, but Lee urges us to go along since we are in dire need of supplies and Watanabe is with our group, essentially making him our prisoner, and Babylonia having knowledge of a Forsaken base would allow them to balance out any potential threats. We arrive at the base to find it full of corrupted, with Watanabe saying they don't have the manpower to fight every battle and clear every location. After we clear out the corrupted, there's an explosion at the front gate, with the distraction giving Watanabe enough time to slip away from us. Corrupted rush in after hearing the commotion when Watanabe calls out to us to join him and his men as they make their escape. He has us guard the evac point as they get the vehicles prepared when Kamui is pinned down by a corrupted. By the time we free him, it is too late, and we realize Watanabe and the Forsaken have left and taken Liv with them. We switch to Liv, who is now extremely angry about the kidnapping, along with having the rest of Grey Raven put in danger. She informs Watanabe that his actions risk potential war with Babylonia, and that if he needed the team's assistance, we would have been open to helping him had he simply asked. Watanabe is unconcerned as he does not fear the consequences and has long since been prepared for war, but he tells Liv that he needs her help with an important undisclosed task and that afterwards he will make amends with Grey Raven. We chase after them following Liv's signal to an abandoned facility when we are once again attacked by Visago, who has been following us the whole time. We defeat the Sandworm and Kamui expresses his shock at how well it was able to track us from so far away. At this point, Lee realizes Watanabe set us up from the start by giving us the mint, since he also knew Visago tracks prey through its sense of smell. We continue into the facility, knowing there is no chance of negotiations, and that if we fail to retrieve Liv, there will be war. After we defeat the large mech named Zack, we have Liv search through its memories and see its last day before the mansion was overrun. The memories open with Zack and Roseblade, whose name was Leon, as they prepare to send off Mr. Copperfield and his daughter Emma to Babylonia. When the corrupted finally attack, Emma was in the estate courtyard, and Zack is forced to fight his way through the corrupted to rescue her. He brings her back to the departure area, where she is saddened to learn that Leon and Zack cannot go to Babylonia with them. Leon reassures her that it will be okay, since Copperfield has backups of their data to be with them in Eden, with Leon seeing the two of them off as the mansion is overrun by corrupted. Alright, and with that, we are done with Chapter 4. Once again, this seemed like a really big setup chapter. There's a lot of little things that they put in there that I feel like would come into play later, like Kamui. Kamui was definitely infected with that virus, as we saw in Chapter 3, and there's no way that Roland just left after making such a big deal out of finding Kamui. So I definitely feel like that it's something that will come into play later on, and it will be like a much bigger issue then. Lucia definitely has some problems with amnesia. Her memory is atrocious. She doesn't remember anything about her past. She doesn't remember Kamui. She doesn't remember Watanabe. She doesn't remember her trainings. So at some point, someone definitely erased her memories. And I'm interested to find out what that's all about. I'd like to know what it is Watanabe took Liv for. What was so important he needed to steal her away. And what's so important that he's willing to fight the whole space station up in the sky for it. That's interesting. I'm really hoping to see if they actually go to war over it, or if Grey Raven goes in there and they like smooth everything over. I'd like to hear a bit more about this great evacuation, since it seemed Babylonia straight up abandoned a bunch of their forces down there. Was it really that serious? What actually happened during that time? Was it really as straightforward as, we didn't have time to take you guys back up, or was there something different going on underneath? Very excited to find out about that. That about wraps up my thoughts on this chapter, and I hope to see you all in the next video where I cover Chapter 5, Shattered Illusion.